Robot Talk is the podcast that sits down with robot enthusiasts from around the world and asks them the questions you always wanted answered. Like, how do you teach yourself robotics? And how does that thing work? Hello everyone! Welcome to Robot Talk. I'm your host, Claire Asher, and this week I'm excited to welcome the very first self-taught maker to the podcast to talk about the ups and downs of building robots at home. Before that, I'd like to remind you about our competition to win your very own Robot Talk t-shirt. Our winner for October was Gordon Knott, and we'll be selecting another lucky winner at the end of November. To enter, all you have to do is share your favourite episode on social media and tag us at Robot Talk Pod. So, with all that said, let's get on with this week's interview. I recently had a really interesting chat with Jorvon Moss from Digi-Key about making robots at home and robot design and aesthetics. This week, I'm talking to Jorvon Moss, known online as Odd-Jayy, a technical influencer at Digi-Key and an accomplished maker best known for his Robotic Oddities. Hi Jay, welcome to Robot Talk.
Hi.
So you're the first maker I've had on the podcast, and I always love seeing your awesome robotic creations on social media. So I'm really excited to chat to you and to hear your perspective on robotics. First of all, I have to ask, what inspired you to get into making robots?
Fun fact, which is going to sound weird, loneliness. I spent a lot of time, especially in college, by myself. And I realized that my friends weren't really like my friends. So I was like, why not just build a friend?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, problem solved. I'll just build a friend. So that's what I ended up doing.
Yeah, that's super easy.
That's totally fine. Totally doable. Totally normal reaction, normal human reaction.
I mean, personally, I'll start out, I'll say, I want to do this. And then, I can just teach myself that. And then you start actually doing it and it's a lot harder than it sounds. So I imagine that's also the case for making robots.
Oh, yeah. I wasn't naturally gifted at any of this. I have no natural talent, in my opinion. I'm just very stubborn. So
that can get you a long way.
Yeah, I started mini fires. I made mini circles explode. I have destroyed many things. Trial and error has been my best learning companions throughout the years of me building robots.
Yeah, I imagine so. It must be difficult to get all of the tools and equipment that you need to build a robot. I assume there's quite a lot of things involved.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot easier now thanks to my job at Digi-Key. I can easily get parts compared to what I used to have to do. I used to, since I grew up poor, I would just take stuff apart because I realized that RC cars had motors in them and then the free battery packs and things like that. I got really good at recycling and reusing.
That's fantastic. That's a lot of creativity, I guess. I'm always terrified of taking things apart in case I can't put them back together again.
I always just kind of wait till they break first and seeing what I can use, if I can fix it, if not, and if it's worth the time to fix it. Because sometimes some things are big projects, and I feel like there's a difference between learning and a project.
Yeah, definitely. So on a kind of related note, we had an audience question from Scott's Robots on Twitter. So Scott says, I know you are self-taught like me, and I know well that taking the leap to building your first robot is scary. Can you share the story of how you decided to just go for it for the first time?
Oh, my first robot. Man, that's a hard one. I still have my first robot toy too, which is funny. It's on the shelf. But honestly, I don't think I was really aiming for anything at the time because this is way before social media became really big. It was 2017, I want to say, 2017, 2016, sometime around there. I joined a makerspace in LA called Crash Space, which is my local makerspace. And it was more for me trying to learn how to do this and me being around really fun and great people that I just started making stuff and then wanting to show them. When I made my first spider bot, my first wearable Aussie robot, I didn't even have a Twitter then. My friend took the picture for me and posted it on Twitter. and people found him from that, and then found me and started reaching out to me from that. So
Cool.
I literally started doing it for the fun of it, and me just be like, "Oh, I built this new thing. Oh, I built this new thing. Oh, this is fun. I want to try this." And just doing this and doing this, doing this, and then suddenly someone takes a picture of me and being like, "Hey, you need to be on the internet now." And I was like, "Oh, okay."
And then that's where it all began.
Yeah, downhill from there.
So, I love the robots that you make. I think, it always brightens up my day when I see one of your posts pop on my Twitter feed or whatever, and I'm like, oh, that's really cool. I love seeing what you've come up with. And a lot of your designs have kind of quite a distinctly steampunk feel to them.
Mhm.
So, where do you get your ideas and your inspiration from?
Well, luckily, I have an arts degree, which I know it's a whole bunch of debt just for a piece of paper. But thanks for my art degree, I kind of come at robotics and building stuff from a different aspect. I've noticed that most engineers come for more of a functionality aspect, like
Mm.
it has to be fully functional, it has to do a thing. Thanks to my art background, I want to just look cool first. Everything else is kind of a secondary issue. But like first issue must look cool. Second issue must work. Third issue transportation. So I started with steampunk because steampunk was my favorite genre of like fiction when I was younger, when I was really growing up and stuff. I
Mm.
like the concept of like the magic that was steampunk and the science behind the steampunk. It was like all these gears and motors and things being powered by some weird magical thing. And it was like the perfect, in my opinion, the perfect combination of science and magic. So thanks to that, I wanted to do my own steampunk stuff when I first started out, and I started focusing on making the gears actually be functional because I wanted them to not just be glued on gears.
Yeah.
I wanted them to actually move and do stuff and have that nice magical feel to it, which is actually really helpful. It taught me a lot of mechanical engineering because of my obsession with steampunk.
Yeah. And I guess in a way it's an advantage because I think a lot of roboticists kind of spend a lot of time trying to hide like the mechanical workings of their robot. So it all looks like really slick and smooth on the outside, but steampunk kind of gives you that opportunity that it's actually on show.
Yeah, yeah. It's a lot of pros and cons because having things be run completely by gears over the years, I've learned can have multiple problems because something can get it's outside for too long and like a tree branch or even a leaf, because I had a leaf go into my robot before, and it got
Really?
stuck in the gears. And you have to really take it off layer by layer to find where the leaf is and then yank it out and be like, oh, okay. Um, but it also comes down to when it comes to at least what I come to it is aesthetics. I like to focus a lot on the aesthetics of the robot. So depending on what aesthetic you choose, depends on the design compilation you're probably going to have to have.
Hmm.
So more newer robots look like sleek and clean with nothing covering them. But then steampunks are like gold coppers. You have to show gears. It has to like light up a certain way. The colors are more copper yellowish. If you're using something more like what's another good sci-fi cyberpunk, everything is super smooth and clean. LEDs, LED wire, very Tron-like.
Hmm.
Or if you're using something like I've been obsessed with NASA Punk recently, which is more like actual NASA-like design. So like
Okay.
very I would say very engineer-esque, whereas everything is very functional, but like using basic shapes like squares, circles, and then color designs where they're like whites and orange, very like NASA colors, space
Hmm.
colors.
Cool. Yeah, I haven't even heard of that one. So, what is your favorite robotic design that you've created so far?
That's a hard one. I think probably picking a favorite child. Let me make sure to look around.
Yeah.
I'm powered on. That way, none of them gets jealous.
Yeah.
Um, that's a very hard one because I have a lot of different designs that I love. I love my Aussie bots because the spider design. But the problem with my Aussie spider design a lot of times is that people see it and they instantly think, oh no, it's dangerous, or oh no, it's evil, or oh no, it's going to
Mm,
kill us because we have this huge, concept of killer robots being spider-like for some reason.
yeah.
And then at the same time, I really enjoy the new NASA Puck designs I've been doing because they look very space-like, and I love the whole like future idea of floating in space. Oh, that's a hard question, man. I really don't think I can answer that
Yeah.
one. I love them all for each different reasons. They all have their own
Yeah.
uniqueness about them. So, and I'm always changing and developing and upgrading. So I really can't decide top of my head. I will say, I do enjoy biomimicry the most. I like when my robots so much focus on animal designs because it's just like that instant click of like, oh, that's supposed to be a beetle, or oh, that's supposed to
Yeah.
be a worm, or that's supposed to be something else. I love that type of design when it comes to like robots. I like it when they look like little animals sometimes.
Yeah, my background is in biology, so I'm with you there. I definitely appreciate the creature inspired robots. Okay, I totally understand why you can't pick a favorite. Maybe you can tell me what the most challenging robot you've made has been.
Oh, that's funny. It's the one I'm working on right now.
Is that always the answer to that question, though?
Yeah, I mean, well, I had a hard time making my AI robot, which is now on my desk, called Marvin. Marvin is my full Raspberry Pi AI robot, who's also my helper now.
Awesome.
Speech recognition, everything like that. But he was more of a programming problem than anything. So it was my first time attacking programs that hard before. Everything else on him was extremely simple. That was
Mm.
easy design. Um, Bebop was one of my newest ones. It's my new wearable robot. Was super easy. I did that within like a few days, and people loved it. It wasn't really like it was something
Wow.
I just had in the back of my mind. The new robot I'm working with now is called Binary, and Binary's design is a fusion of Do from Star Wars and I want to say Wally-esque with a little bit of
Hmm.
like bug influence here and there from the design and spare parts. But since it is using two wheels to balance, I've realized wanting to have to do a few more engineering techniques to keep the robot balanced because I could build a whole system of accelerometer and things like that, and then pre-program it to keep balancing itself over and over again. But
Hmm.
I have to be traveling within the week, so I don't have time to do that. So I'm making it remote controlled. So I'm giving it training wheels right now that I'm designing where it can hold itself up as I keep going. But it's been a very long mission because I'm using new types of motors. I'm using a gear system instead of a pulley system, which most people would probably use a pulley system for this. It's just been an entire weekend of just like, this is wrong. Let me redesign this. Oh, the wheels are kind of messed up. Let me redesign the wheels. Oh, this gear doesn't fit correctly. Let me try like a different type of mesh gear. It's just been a big mess.
I guess, if you change one thing, that then it'll create a knock on effect. Like every part of the robot is so connected and so influencing each other that every time you change one aspect, everything else kind of has to be changed as well.
Oh yeah. 110%. It's very much like your biology mirror. It's very much like biology. Like when you start looking at RNA and DNA, you change one thing in your DNA, it messes up
Yeah.
everything else.
Yeah.
It's pretty much the same with the robot. Like if I change the wheel size, I'm going to have to figure out the weight distribution between it. If I change the head size to make the head a bit lighter, I need to figure out how it's going to affect everything else. So like it's all these small little things that keep stopping me because as soon as I finish one problem and fix one issue, I have like 10 more pop up.
Yeah. Very satisfying when it all works, though, I imagine.
Oh yeah, when it's done and it's like rolling around and just being cute, I just call it post making depression because I always have like a day where I'm done and I don't have anything to really do. So I kind of like sit around and be like, oh, that was fun. And rethink, things. Like I could do this better, I could do that better. But it's done and I have to figure out what to do with my life again.
Yeah. One thing that comes up with a lot of my guests on the podcast is the kind of interdisciplinary nature of robotics. I mean, you've already kind of illustrated that well, pulling together like engineering and programming and then design. And it seems like a particularly challenging thing to teach yourself.
Was it like yeah, it was really weird. Did you ever have that feeling where you look back upon your younger self and you really don't recognize them anymore?
Yeah.
It kind of feels like that now because I've been doing this for so long. Like I decided to stop doing art when I was in art school, but I was already like in my junior year and I was not about to not finish.
Hmm.
But I think that was around 2015 I started teaching myself when I really started like buying robotic books and science books and just start studying like a madman. Um, but I don't know, it was just like a weird obsession where like I didn't go out and party. I didn't try to really hang out with friends and stuff. I was just like, oh yeah, I'll hang out later. Let me just finish reading this chapter. I want to try doing this really weird thing tonight and stuff. And then of course my parents got worried because I was playing with some very high voltage things because I really didn't understand Ohm's law at the time and other things. But it's really weird because like now I think about it and it feels more like playtime than anything else,
Hmm.
which is weird because like this is I have a hard time teaching and like I'm planning to do a little bit better after my last two events this year. I'm going to sit down and focus on documentation and focus on making content, kind of telling people like my process. But for me, it just feels good. Other people get frustrated and like get really mad when things don't work out and stuff. I am stubborn. If it doesn't work, I'm going to figure it out. And then I'm just having fun as I go. So it's very hard because I remember being a student and I remember learning things I didn't want to learn. I wanted to get to the end of the fun stuff or doing the fun stuff first.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to like balance that out when teaching someone because they want to make
Mm.
something cool, but it's like you have to learn how to move a motor before you can create a machine.
Yeah. Yeah. Very, very wise words. I mean, it seems like it's needed a huge amount of dedication and stubbornness, as you say, to get to where you are now.
Yeah, man, I never give myself time to stop and like look at it and really think like, wow. But it's also one of those things I've learned too, which I hope I can help in the future because I get to play with a lot of new boards here and there. Like when stuff gets released, a lot of times people or companies will give them to me. And one thing I try to do as soon as possible is make it as simple as possible because I remember if you get something new and you try it the first time, it's like playing a video game. If the first hour isn't fun, you don't want to do it anymore.
Yeah.
So like whatever you're doing, you have to at least be somewhat entertaining and somewhat cool or at least somewhat enjoyable to you because if it's not, you're just gonna look for the next entertaining thing.
Yeah.
Especially with TikTok now.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Your work and the work of other kind of makers and tinkerers on social media is so important because it really makes science and technology more accessible, more approachable, and inspires people to think to themselves, well, hey, I could build a robot as well.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm a big fan of Steam, just because steampunk, but no, I'm a more fan of Steam than STEM because STEM is good. STEM is good to have a basis of understanding and stuff. And I know not everybody wants to like do their own thing. Some people want to just exist and get through life and just enjoy the engineering process in general. But I enjoy STEAM a little bit more just because of the art aspect. I feel like if you're studying any type of science, you need a little bit of art in there. Like
Mm,
that kind of just gives the creative juices flowing. That way you can kind of see things in more of a not just functional way, but also in a beautiful way. Like, is it pretty? Because I know many robotinists and many engineers who do a much better job at building stuff than I do. They are way better at it than I am. But because of their stuff not looking good, they don't get that many hits on the internet. People just don't care about it, even though it looks amazing, it works and stuff. It can be like a balanced robot and stuff. But since they don't care about the design of it, it looks like a giant wheel with wires in it and stuff. Like it
mm,
doesn't have anything. And I've even said before, um, in my opinion, what makes Boston Dynamics robot dog and their robots, they're fully weird humanoid robot. What makes them really creepy, in my opinion, is that they don't have a head.
yeah.
Like you don't know where to look. You're looking at them and they look like a little creepy because it's like you don't have a face. I don't my eyes are looking for something to connect with and you don't have.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, I think art is something that's sorely missing in a lot of science and engineering training is that it's kind of these things are seen as separate when, like you said, they're so involved in each other and they're so important. And if you're going to make a robot that people want to use,
Mhm.
it's got to look nice, right?
Yeah, it has to look friendly. It has to look cute. It has to look like it's not going to take over the world in like 20 years. It just it's very important, especially depending on what you're trying to make. Because a lot of stuff
Mm,
can be like I have a lot of prop maker friends and I love prop making. Of the whole thing of it's really fun. But you can make things that look cool and it can be absolutely nothing, but they look cool and everyone will hop on because it
mm,
looks cool. Like the first Iron Man movie, which came out in what 2008, that was mostly a whole bunch of visual effects and stuff like that. But it got
mm.
people so hyped on it that like you have so many engineers who became engineers because of that movie, who've built their own Iron Man suits that work better and fit better than the actual movie they did back then in 2008.
Yeah.
Like I've seen suits that are made fully out of silicone that are like flexible and stuff like that. Like and it looks amazing. They didn't have that back in 2008. Robert Downey Jr. was in full on like hardcore plastic and stuff. Like it was very uncomfortable, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But just like it inspired them.
Yeah. People are inspired by things that look cool, even if they don't necessarily function the way that they look like they're going to. Um, but yeah, it's interesting. I have this conversation with a lot of people about like, does a robot need to look cute? Does it need to have a face? And I get a really mixed response depending on who I'm talking to. And I think it, to an extent, maybe depends on what your robot is going to do.
Yeah. I definitely agree with that. Like, I don't really think it needs a face if it's going to be something like in a warehouse type of situation.
Yeah.
But I feel like with anything dealing with people, because humans are very strange, we are very strange creatures. Yes, I am human. Um, but humans are such a weird creature that we really need to start thinking of how we interface with them and things like that. Because if it's cuter, we're more likely to help them. Like we have these robots in LA who drive around food now. I've seen a few of them, but I've also seen a few of
Mm.
them be tipped over. And I've always been like, oh no. And then eventually someone will like walk up and just help the robot up and it'll just go on its way. And I think the only reason they're okay with helping it is because it looks cute. It's adorable. It's like a turtle on his back. It's just like trying to move his little wheels. Like, but since it looks so cute, people are okay with helping it. People think it's cute when it runs by. But comparing it to something like the Boston Dynamics dog, if that was just running around with stuff, we'd be kind of like, it looks weird. But it's totally fine for it to be working in like a warehouse that doesn't have that many people in it in the first place, because you don't really have to worry about those interactions or those feelings or the psyche of a person who has to walk around with faceless robots all day.
Yeah, exactly. I see those. I don't know if you've seen the videos where they like. There's been various ones of them where they kick a robot over
Mm.
and then they show off the fact that it can get back up again. Those always make me feel so bad for the robot.
There's like a thing in movies with that too, which I always laugh about, because every time the robot goes rogue, it's just because we were mean to the robot. It's never because the robot chose to be evil. It's always just like, hey, these humans keep torturing us. If there's no more humans, no more torture. Or like,
Yeah.
I'm still learning programming myself. I am not the best programmer. I need help most of the time. I literally spent this weekend studying Python again and learning about robot objects when you're programming, figuring out you can use code to stack code upon more code, and that way you can combine
Mm.
code to make a super code or behaviors. Man, coding is weird. Anyway,
Yeah.
but the thing about AI, especially when I have to talk to my friends and people who don't understand AI, who always ask me this too, like, "Oh, it's going to take over the world. It's going to do things like that." And I'm like, "No, AI is not a person. We're projecting on that. The only
Yeah.
how AI will come to that conclusion if it's a dumb AI and it's machine learning. So, like, if you build a robot not to fall and you intentionally start training it not to fall while you're pushing it around, it's either going to learn how to, you know, hold itself upright. So every time it gets knocked over, it can easily like not fall. Or it's going to figure out, hey, if I kill you, I don't have to fall anymore.
Yeah. So it's a stark warning. This is why I'm always really nice to my robot vacuum cleaner.
Oh, I'm nice to all my robots because they're like, yay. If you somehow get sentience, just remember who built you.
Yeah. Just remember, I always said please and thank you.
Yeah, please and thank you. I always upgrade you. You always get upgraded.
All right, we've got one more audience question that was submitted by our website. They said, "Is there a way to learn robotics with a group of friends?"
Ooh, yeah, that's a very interesting question. It's weird because since I got into robotics because I was lonely, I didn't have many friends, and I thought the way to fix that problem was to build friends. I gained friends through this, but at the same time, I still mostly work by myself when it comes to my robot designs. I get help from
Mm,
friends, but I don't have any of the skill set with working together like a big collaboration on a robot. I've definitely loved Fresh Robotics and things like that, just because that
mm,
teaches you how to do teamwork to build a robot. And
yeah.
I recommend anyone who's starting off to do that, because that will help push each other to do robot stuff, because you have that cool team, that like friendship with that. So definitely possible. I'm just not experienced enough to tell you yes or no.
Mm, yeah. Do you find that happens in like maker spaces where you kind of maybe not necessarily working together on the same robot, but you have that kind of communal atmosphere and you know, give each other advice or pointers or whatever?
Oh yeah, 110%. What made me improve, in my opinion, so fast, other than my overly obsessiveness, but my maker group used to meet every Tuesday. So like every Tuesday, I would intentionally go to the maker meetup and I'll show them what I'm working on. And of course, people just being nice will give me their input, and I took that input. So just like, oh, I want to do this and do this. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, instead of using that, why don't you use this board? It's a lot cheaper and smaller and give you more room, or do this and this and this. Like there's a lot of community that builds into, and then a lot of people are just nice enough just to help. Like before Twitter got taken by Elon Musk, I used to always post like, help, like, hey, I'm having this issue. Can someone help
Yeah.
me? And people will come in and like give me their comments and be like, oh, have you tried this? Or have you tried that? you can always attempt that with your friends and attempt that on the internet, and most people will get back to you eventually.
Yeah.
But yeah, that community definitely does help.
Yeah, absolutely. Jay, it's been really fun chatting to you today. I've been talking to Jorvon Moss, a technical influencer at Digikey. Thanks, Jay.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoy Robot Talk, please do share the podcast, subscribe, and leave a review to let us know what you think. And make sure you check out our social media channels to see a photo of Marvin V3, Jorvon's personal AI robot design. We're at Robot Talk Pod on all the socials. Next week, I'm speaking to Aisha Kutcher-Kilmas from the University of Nottingham about collaboration, conflict, and failure in human-robot interactions. Until then, I've been Claire Asher, and this has been Robot Talk. Robot Talk is brought to you by the Hamlin Centre, Imperial College London.